So we'll let that dry in a minute. The next thing you're going to want to do is, this is a cup. This is what we're going to use to waterproof it. And if you look at the bottom of the cup, you can see there's some markings on the bottom of it, but you pretty much have 3 or 4 spots where you can put this camera so it's not looking at those markings. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a good one there, a good one there. This one has a little bit of scratch on it, so I'm going to start with this one. And what we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to glue this part of the camera right here down onto a clear part of this, so the camera is looking through a clear part of that cup. So how we're going to do that is with more 5-minute epoxy. Do we have toothpicks?
Yep.
Still? We're going to get just a little bit of epoxy, and we're going to go all the way around this ring, the top ring of here. Yeah, that's going to be a little better. And spread it a thin coat all the way around. And now we want a thin coat because if it's too thick, when you stick it to that glass cup, it's going to spread out. And if that gets into where your camera's looking out of, you're going to have glue in the way and you're not going to be able to see. So we want a thin coat, but we also want to make sure it's all the way around because this is actually what is waterproofing the bottom of the camera so it can see out. So this is where, this is the hardest part. This is going to take about 5 minutes to harden. So you have to stick it on here as best as possible. Already messed up that one. You get it on here flat, and then you have to hold it for 5 minutes. And you need to hold it as steady as possible. This is the hardest part because if your hand slips a little bit, like mine already have done a little bit, we're going to get some glue in the focal length. Yeah, I've already messed this one up.
So Matt's a competition official, but I work with a team, so I can give you guys hints that he can't give you. If you're using your cameras to pick up information that's not color-coded, you don't need to tell the red from the green from the blue. It turns out that the way the camera works is it's got thousands of little detectors. And the first detector is going to have a screen over it that only lets red. The next one's going to have one that only lets green. The next one only blue. Red, green, blue, red, green, blue, and it repeats. Well, that means that 1/3 of your cells are being used to detect just one color, 1/3 are being used to detect another color, and 1/3 is for a third color. The problem with that is that that cuts down on the light you get. What about a black and white camera? Do you think it has any of those filters on it? So it's 3 times as better for detecting stuff. It will detect it at a lower light level, but you just got to make sure you're using it for things that don't need color representation.
Okay, so does someone have a watch? Can they start timing 5 minutes?
Ross is on it. All right, well, I don't know if I trust Ross, but...
And so now, a little boring, but I have to hold this for 5 minutes. Hope it works. While I'm doing this, we are going to talk to them about this camera. It is in the instructions. I was going to say, other than your camera, your pigtail, and your power, there are going to be some instructions. When you plug your camera into a TV, there is a certain order you want to do it. First off, you plug the camera into the TV. So the RCA goes into the video in, which is usually the yellow. That goes into your TV first. Then you hook your camera power up, plug that in and plug it in. And the last thing you're going to do is turn on your TV. If you don't do that, it usually is okay, but sometimes that can break your camera if you don't do it in the proper order. So just remember there's a simple order, and that's what you want to do.
So it sounds like you plug everything, turn everything off,
Yep.
plug it all together, turn on your camera, turn on your TV. Anybody know why the sky is blue?
Because the ocean, it reflects off the ocean.
Close. It filters. It actually filters out the light. So you're seeing blue light coming down. The ocean has a similar problem. It likes to filter out the reds. So if you're trying to get information that's red underwater, it tends to look actually like black. So that's another good reason that the color cameras aren't as good, because 1/3 of it, the whole red section, is garbage. If you're taking photographs underwater, a lot of times what you'll have is lights that have a lot of extra red in them. So that red will go out and bounce off things and help correct for that problem.
What about condensation in the cameras?
Well, once you've got it sealed, it's very hard for the water to get in.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the problems is if you do this in a humid area on a hot, wet day, and then you take it somewhere cold, you can get condensation on it. There's a little bit of air trap in there, it's probably less than a cubic centimeter of air. If that has enough moisture in it, it can affect you. I know when these went into an ice tank once upon a time, we had a little bit of problem with that. But hopefully today we have a nice toolish day, so we shouldn't have too much of a problem with that, I'm hoping.
And then the professional cameras.
How much time's gone by?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, 30 seconds.
The professional cameras will have a
Halfway there,
desiccant,
man.
and that's an air dryer that's built into them to help take care of that problem.
After a couple minutes, you can hopefully take your hands off it and let it dry that way.
Leave a guard.
Yep.
Don't want it bounced or bumped.
And like I say, what this is doing is the camera is looking through that one little area there, and we're just sealing that off because in a little bit after we test it again, we're going to pour, I talked about 5-minute epoxy. This is another type of epoxy, which is much more, it cures much more slowly, which means it hardens much more slowly. Now, why would we not just want to pour 5-minute epoxy in here, 5 minutes later, done? Yes?
I think it's too hot.
Exactly. This is a chemical reaction, and it produces heat. And, uh-oh.
Oh no.
So the chemical reaction that produces heat. Anybody know what that's called? Exothermic.
And so this one, the Envirotex Light, this epoxy takes 4 to 8 hours to get hard, and then generally 24 to 48 to really harden up before you can use it. So generally, if you're staying for the wiring workshop this afternoon, you might be able to take it home when you're done. If not, we're going to keep it here and we will send them to you. So we'll have everyone who's leaving right after this, you'll get your cameras in sometime next week. We'll get them to you.
Pick a person on your team that has a steady hand
Yep.
to hold that down. I do.
Apparently we didn't.
I don't.
Drinking coffee, probably not good.
Hey, I was the only one that didn't drink coffee.
And then, one last thing, something to think about, you inside your team. One of the nice things about this epoxy is food coloring does not affect it. So we can give you, when we fill this up, we can add some colors to the epoxy and make it nice in color. We have red, yellow, green, and blue. But of course, if we mix those, we can get other
Pink,
colors.
purple.
Yep, a little bit of red makes pink. A little bit of blue makes a light blue. Like I say, we can mix that, a couple drops, mix it, and you can decide which ones you want.
Pink's awesome, dude. You know what you're talking about.
So what colors are ROVs painted?
Yellow.
Yellow,
Red.
red. You mean black?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you paint it red?
Come on, we just went over this.
Why wouldn't you paint it red?
Shows up black.
Yeah, it bleeds out and it looks black. It disappears.
Now, why would you want it yellow?
I don't think I just saw it.
It's pretty. Right?
For our ROV in the scout class 2 years ago, it was called the Yeti. We had like these car designs to catch the jellyfish, and we painted them red so we could see them when you're standing over the pool.
For the short distance in the water you guys are using, it's not bad.
When you're a million feet
But
down.
30 feet, it starts going out.